Coming up on Mountain News at 6, following a school shooting in Iowa, schools across our region are taking extra precautions to keep students and staff safe. And one Eastern Kentucky Sheriff's Office says it's removed several pounds of meth in the last few years, what officials say has led to the department's success.
Plus, a winter weather advisory is in place for some areas as our next weather system is looming. Those details coming up as Mountain News at 6 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
It is going to be a messy start to the weekend, but for most of us, it will mainly be a cold rain instead of snow or ice. Meteorologist Cameron Aaron is tracking the latest. Cameron.
Yes, Steve, we are tracking that next weather system as early as tonight, but mainly for the early parts of your Saturday morning. And those key points have not changed too much over the past few days. As you can see, for most of us, we wake up to a little bit of wintry mix, but mainly a cold rain. And that will be as we go into late tonight, also early tomorrow morning. And that changeover to a rain happens earlier in those southern counties close to the Tennessee border. That changeover happens later in those northern counties close to I-64. A small chance of a little bit of accumulation or a few slick spots close to I-64 and into northern Kentucky. And again, we gave you this first alert forecast on Wednesday, and it has not changed too much. Watching out for a little bit of a mix in those green areas, but for most of us, a cold rain is on tap from midnight tonight through noon on Saturday. And again, the better chance to see a few flakes will be north of the Mountain Parkway, mainly close to I-64. Now, we are dry this afternoon, also this evening, but as we zoom out, that next weather system is not too far away, producing some rain and snow over Missouri and Arkansas, and that will continue pushing into our direction. So be sure to enjoy the quiet weather this evening because those changes are on the way. So be sure to also have that first alert weather app as we get more updates into tonight, also tomorrow. And as you can see, after midnight, that moisture really begins to increase, but those temperatures are above freezing in the middle to possibly upper 30s in some areas. So we are not expecting those big impacts. However, timing out those rain and wintry mix chances in more detail in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. Following the most recent school shooting in Perry, Iowa, officials are looking at ways to ensure safety for students and staff here in Eastern Kentucky. WYMT's RJ Johnson spoke with one school resource officer on how they are training teachers.
School officials are looking at ways to stay safe and aware of potential threats at all times.
This year we were actually able to implement and further that training and go more in depth and kind of give them a little bit of an experience-based training.
Floyd County School Resource Officer and Deputy Sheriff Adam Dixon says sometimes experience can be the best teacher.
Experience sometimes can teach us the best lessons. So therefore we implemented the training days that we had this year to go a little bit further with letting them get to know kind of how to react in these situations.
Teaching them to change their mindsets. Trying
to teach them a certain mindset that they have to have that maybe has never really been explained to them. That, you know, the mindset needs to be that it's not that, well, it's probably never going to happen here, but that type of mindset needs to change, that it's when it's going to happen here.
Dixon says teachers and staff have reacted well to the trainings,
so that they're mentally prepared to handle that and know how to respond, and in turn keeping their kids as calm as they can and teaching them how to respond to these type of emergencies. And they've all been really receptive to it, and to be honest with you, and it's gave a really good foundation. A lot of them are really kind of hopeful that we'll continue to do these types of trainings.
To make sure they're always up to date on what to do. In Floyd County, RJ Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
Dixon says they are also looking at ways to continue trainings and staying up to date with proper technology to help with safety. The Rowan County Sheriff's Office says a 12-year-old student is charged with having a gun on a school bus. This incident is leaving several parents concerned, especially after saying they were not personally notified by the school that it had happened. The parents have chosen to remain anonymous, but they say there are multiple incidents, particularly involving Rowan County Middle School, that continue to be swept under the rug.
There is a lot of transparency issues over the years that I've experienced with 3 children in this school system. A lot of transparency issues.
Yeah.
We are not notified at the appropriate time or the appropriate manner.
Or of the full details.
Mm-hmm.
Several parents will be gathering at the Rowan County Public Library on Tuesday from 5 until 7 in hopes of creating a better solution to address these issues. A Lincoln County woman is behind bars after several complaints made to dispatch in Laurel County. Officials with the sheriff's office say 33-year-old Tiffany Taylor was going door to door and stumbling along the roadway. When deputies found Taylor, they discovered she had reportedly been smoking meth earlier. Taylor was charged with public intoxication and was taken to the Laurel County Correctional Center. Former Letcher County Sheriff's Deputy Ben Fields, who was sentenced to 7 years in prison, has reported to jail. Fields was indicted on several charges, including rape and sodomy. He appeared via Zoom before Pike County Judge Eddie Coleman yesterday. Fields will also be listed as a registered sex offender. Police in Clay County are asking for help finding a woman who took property belonging to the county's administrative building. Here's an image of that incident. Officials with the sheriff's office say it happened overnight on New Year's Day. If you have any information about the case, you're asked to contact the sheriff's office at 606-598-8411. The Letcher County Sheriff's Office has found a lot of success recently with drug busts. WYMT's Chandler Wilcox spoke with Sheriff Mickey Steins about those results.
Letcher County Sheriff Mickey Steins is 1 year into his second term. He and his deputies have stayed busy.
The road deputies have removed almost 9 pounds of meth in that 5 years.
One point of emphasis for Steins and the sheriff's office has been keying in on bigger drugs.
We're not seeing pills as much. We're trying to concentrate on what we feel like is the harder drugs in the county.
Those harder drugs go beyond meth and heroin. Steins says fentanyl has played a major factor more than ever before.
We've got more fentanyl in 2023 and 2022 than probably all the other years combined, 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Steins was exposed to fentanyl in the summer of 2022. He went to the emergency room but ended up okay. The sheriff says it has been hidden with other drugs in the past.
We're seeing straight fentanyl, but then you're seeing heroin and fentanyl mix. We're seeing meth and fentanyl mix.
How they find the difference between them all can be through a tiny container.
If we have something that looks a little different, off color, a little different texture in the bag, because that's more like a rock, we'll pop it with a fentanyl test.
Stein says they have had success despite only having 2 road deputies. He gave them a lot of credit for their hard work. In Whitesburg, Chandler Wilcox, WYMT Mountain News.
Sheriff Steins also says he thinks people sometimes go back to drugs because of the economy and environment around them, along with the money that comes with drug trafficking. Governor Beshear is giving some new guidance to medical marijuana businesses looking to launch in Kentucky. The governor announced 10 new regulations for future processors, producers, and dispensaries. The rules include what's needed for cannabis business licenses, certain labels medical marijuana products must display, and how products can be advertised. Right now, only those who have certain medical conditions will qualify to buy medical marijuana.
Tyler Technologies license platform and patient registries will allow the program to receive and process applications from cannabis businesses and Kentuckians seeking medical cannabis cards.
The medical marijuana program will not officially launch in Kentucky until the start of next year. Governor Beshear honored a fallen Eastern Kentucky officer in his State of the Commonwealth address earlier this week. Beshear honored Jacob Chaffin, who is in the third picture from the left of the screen there. Chaffin died while on duty during the Allen ambush in the summer of 2022. The governor recognized Chaffin for his efforts with the officer's family in attendance.
Jacob was a true public servant, a member of the Prestonsburg Fire Department, a sergeant in the National Guard, an EMT, and a U.S. Marshal. Jacob was selfless and is missed every day by his loved ones. Today, I was blessed.
Governor Beshear says the least they can do is ensure Jacob Chaffin's daughter, who you saw there in the video, has a bright future. A Kentucky lawmaker says there needs to be more enforcement in highway construction work zones. Senator David Yates has filed a bill to put speed detection devices, basically cameras, in zones where people are actively working. Violators would be fined and receive citations. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to Senator Yates about the proposal.
It can be a dangerous place for road workers.
Unfortunately, even though you have workers out there risking their life for Kentucky and making that infrastructure investment, people ignore that and they recklessly fly through those areas.
David Yates represents clients who have been injured or whose loved ones were killed in highway crashes.
In the past few years, I've seen a dramatic uptick in the amount of injury, accidents, and fatalities that are happening in work zones.
He's sponsoring Senate Bill 44 to put cameras in work zones that would result in a ticket mailed to the car's owner.
And the hope was to save a life. The idea is knowing that the cameras will be set up, you'll deter reckless driving.
Some have questioned if this bill is even enforceable since an actual police officer is not writing you out a ticket for it. We did reach out to Kentucky State Police for comment, but they say they are staying neutral on this and would not be commenting at this time. Yates says it has to be a zone with people physically working. The cameras have to catch the driver going 15 miles per hour over the limit, and a person has to be willing to testify to it. The penalty would be $75 for the first offense.
This may not sound like the harshest penalty in the world, but what it has been shown in other states is to reduce the reckless driving in those zones.
The bill has not been called up to a specific committee just yet, and Yates says he's still gathering co-sponsors. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
Senator Yates says it is likely the bill will get more amendments added to it before it's voted on. Earlier today, state lawmakers honored former Governor Julian Carroll. Carroll, who was also a state representative, lieutenant governor, and state senator at one time, died last month. A resolution to adjourn in his memory passed today. Senators also stood and held a moment of silence. Senator Robert Stivers says Carroll will be remembered for being the last of the power governors who was able to set the agenda and priorities for the entire General Assembly.
Because they created a space for themselves and they knew how to deliver a speech, they knew how to have a presence, and they knew how to create an aura around them.
Senators also said while Carroll did a lot for the state, he also loved to talk with them about his family.
Well, we are tracking some dry weather this evening, but changes are on the way as we go into tonight. Those details coming up.